It's 6:30, we'll get started here. Just a few things before we start the presentation. Those that have been here before have heard the speech before, but if you're here for the first time and would like to get on our emailing list so you can know what we've got coming up for presentations, I'll pass this clipboard around if you want to be added to the list, put on your name and email address. And if you're already on the list or have received emails from me in the past, no need to sign up again. Our next presentation will be in 4 weeks on Wednesday, November 20th, right here with doing the history of the Columbus 151 Speedway. And so that'll be November 20th at 6:30 right here. Another activity that the Historical Society will be active in is the wine walk that's put on by the Chamber. And that'll be November 30th, so we'll be participating in that. And we will be located in what will be our museum. And then tonight, this portion is a short presentation here before we go to the bank. So this will be recorded and posted on the city's website, just like the other ones, but it's not feasible to try and record the tour. But we will have a timeline that Amanda will provide for us on the history of the bank beyond what we are talking about here. So tonight we have Amanda Emery from the Farmers and Merchants Bank, Assistant Vice President in charge of marketing. Okay, and so she's going to be here to help us we're going to basically talk about the time prior to the bank that you're going to be seeing that opened in 1920. So just wanted to touch base a little bit about where the bank was at prior to 1920. So as you can see, Abraham Lincoln became president in the same year that the bank opened, and the Civil War began. And the bank opened as a Union Bank.
Yes.
Okay. And nowadays, I mean, you can go into the bank and exchange money from any country. But I bet you back then they didn't probably take Confederate money. So why don't you tell us about the first location?
Okay, so when the bank first opened, it was in the back of a dry goods store, which would actually been across the boulevard from here, behind what is now the current State Farm building in that empty space.
So where the parking is.
Parking is
Yep.
for your building.
Yep.
This is the only photo that we could find of the original bank. And then 1 year after it opened as a private bank, the Union Bank became incorporated as a state bank on September 24th of 1862. One fun thing that we like to talk about, and you'll be able to see that when you go upstairs to the museum across the street when we go over to the bank. For the first 2 years that they were open, they actually had their own currency because we're actually older than the bank, National Banking Act. So the National Banking Act that started the money that we have now in our current banking system, we had our own Union Bank money for the first 2 years.
So it's gone full circle because you go into a lot of grocery stores and they have a branch location. So over 100 years ago, well over 100 years ago, we've got a bank inside a store. So what you see today isn't necessarily so new.
And then in 1865, the bank moved into the building that's currently across the street from us into the State Farm building, also known as the Telephone Building or the A.G. Cook Building. And the bank stayed there until 1920 when it moved into the current Jewel Box Building that we're going to tour in a little bit. So again, we don't have a lot of photos from that time, but this is one of the photos of the early building on that corner where the insurance agency still is. It stayed there until 1884, and it changed its name to Farmers and Merchants Union Bank in 1884. There was also a few different owners and bank presidents during that time, and the most influential was J. Russell Wheeler, and we'll talk about him a little bit more.
So I don't know if you can notice, but there's a banner hanging across the street, and it says Dodge Brothers. And it says Dodge on this awning for the old store. So I would assume same business maybe. And you said that's the only picture you have of the bank when it was on the corner there.
Yep.
And So this picture had to be taken before 1895 because right next door to the bank is where the museum will be, which is a 2-story brick structure. Here you've got a 1-story, looks like a wood frame structure. So the building that we have for the museum was built in 1895, so obviously this photo was prior to that. And if you look, you're looking here from basically the corner by City Hall, looking back to the Four Corners, you can see the Whitney building in the distance on the right.
In this photo, J. Russell Wheeler can be seen in the back. He's the gentleman in the back of that photo. He was the grandson of the founder, John R. Wheeler, and he became bank president in 1917. Prior to becoming the bank's president, he also worked to foster a good relationship with the farmers in the bank in this area. He became active in the banker-farmer movement in 1910 and organized the first banker-farmer conference in Madison in 1916. And he was also influential in bringing Louis Sullivan to Columbus to build the bank. And then on this photo, you can see some of the workers there. And it's often said that J. Russell Wheeler had help from his wife Anna May to bring the famous architect Louis Sullivan to design the Jewel Box building. Ours is the 8th and the final one of the Jewel Box banks, and this was taken either in 1919 or 1920 when the bank was being built.
So as Amanda mentioned, the phone company was there for quite a few years, and it's now the State Farm building. So a couple of photos from when it was a phone company. I remember back when, before the dial phones, our number was 157J, had to go through the operator. And of course everybody had a party line, so that was we didn't have that many TV stations at that time, but you had a party line to listen to.
More news too.
Yeah, right, more news, yeah, you're right. So here's a picture from the, I would say probably from the 40s, looking at the vehicles that are there, but this was taken from the front of City Hall. Notice the street lights, and you can see the picture of, or the bank on the right, but next to it is Tetzloff's drugstore, and then the other half of that building was, well, more recently, it's still been 50 years or whatever it was, Meetzel's Bakery, and then before that it was Eddie Greening's candy store, and that was probably, that could have been it at that time, and then the next building was J.C. Penney's. So, where the Tetzloff's drugstore and the Greening's candy store were, that building is now the addition to the bank, and Randy Bubbles says that his desk is located right where the counter would have been for Frank Meetzel's Bakery, so I don't know if he can smell the donuts yet or not. And thank you to Amanda and those at the bank and the Sue Walcott for providing some of these photos. So now we'll go over to the bank, and Samantha will be there too?
Yes.
And so we'll divide up into 2 groups and just want to meet in the main entrance and give them any further information you want to give them.
I think you covered it very well.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just meet inside in the lobby there, and then we can split into 2 groups. Samantha will have to let us in because it's locked, so.
Okay. Well, then one other thing to add, so like I said, this will be recorded, so the timeline will be added for those who are viewing this online at a future date. So they'll have that added on as well. So we will kind of lock up here. If anybody wants to leave anything here, we'll come back and open up. I gotta put the chairs away later anyway, so, and otherwise we can just head on over.